It's undeniable that Juice made an immense impact on music during the short time he was at the top. The fact that he had hundreds of songs to release shows that he had a massive work ethic, and not many artists have hundreds of songs ready to go like that. What the fuck is up, losers? We're returning back to the YouTubes for another riveting origin story. Not to mention the dissertation on why the fuck Juice WRLD catapulted to being one of the most popular / influential artists of the last couple decades. Before we get to sucking this video's dick, give the like button a subtle spank and flick the nipple of the subscribe button for your boy. Now, Juice WRLD was born as Jared Anthony Higgins in Chicago, Illinois. His Wikipedia says he was a leading figure in the emo rap and SoundCloud rap scene, but in my opinion, that sells him way short of what he really was. You see, Juice WRLD was not just a SoundCloud emo rapper. In fact, he was one of the biggest pop stars of the last few decades who didn't come from a position of privilege to start. And I'm not downing on Taylor Swift because she had a dad who was a big record executive and basically paid for her stardom. I'm just saying it's a little different with someone like Juice, who actually built his empire organically. Love you, Taylor. Juice WRLD was born on the 2nd day of December in the year of our Lord 1998 to a staunchly religious and conservative mother who would not allow him to listen to the devil's rap music. So he found his comfort zone in bands like Fall Out Boy, Black Sabbath, and Megadeth. Cause yeah, rap is way more satanic than Black Sabbath, a band that got its name from Aleister Crowley's term for a satanic Sunday. He was a musician from a young age, learning the piano starting from the age of 4 and eventually getting professional lessons as he grew older. When he was in high school, he took up a guitar and drums, hoping to play in a local rock band. Then in high school, he dropped his first SoundCloud song. At the same time, Juice grew up kind of like a suburban white kid, playing Tony Hawk, listening to rock, and recreationally taking drugs to rebel. He began his drug use at a relatively young age, progressively getting worse and worse. His first handful of songs was released under the moniker of Juice the Kid, writing and recording quite a few songs under that handle, recording them on his cell phone with no mic and what I can only imagine was a dreadful recording quality. I'm not sure if any of these recordings still exist, but it would be kind of cool to find them if they did. Now, he eventually settled on the name Juice WRLD, referencing Tupac's movie role in the movie Juice, saying that the world part of his name was in reference to taking over the world, which by all accounts, he would later succeed in. For a while, he was working a job in a factory while working on his music during his time off. He later mentioned how much he hated factory work, and honestly, having worked in a few factories, it is absolutely soul-sucking work, so dull and repetitive. No place at all for an artist like Juice, by any means. While he was working at that factory, he met Nick Mira, a now famous record producer, and joined his collective, Internet Money, releasing several songs, including his first EP, 999. Featuring the now legendary track, Lucid Dreams. This song catapulted him to stardom, becoming an overnight sensation and cementing his name in the annals of rock and rap history. And it didn't take long after the success of 999 and Lucid Dreams for him to land a record deal with Lil Bibby's label, Grade A Productions. Now, the rest of the story is kind of fast-paced and a little more hard to follow. He released another EP featuring the track All Girls Are the Same, which then caught the attention of Interscope, the same label that Eminem was signed to, who then offered him a $3 million deal for him to sign with them. And of course, he obliged, and they bought out his contract with Grade A Productions, bringing him on the same label as other legendary acts. Over the next couple years, he would continue to drop banger after banger after banger, steadily rising further and further up the chain of stars, taking his place at the top among the other greats. But unfortunately, as we all know, it would come to a sudden and shocking end in December of 2019, only 6 days after his 21st birthday. He and his friends flew into Chicago on their private jet, and a lot of the details seem a little bit fuzzy. I've heard a lot of conflicting accounts of what really happened, but the common consensus is that upon landing, Juice received a text from a friend. Actually, before landing, Juice received a text from a friend waiting at the airport for him to arrive, who informed him that there were police and DEA agents waiting for him to land in order to raid his rented private jet and arrest them for suspected guns and drugs on the plane. It's been said that the pilot of their jet was disgruntled that they arrived late to the takeoff and was mad that they were smoking weed on the jet during the flight, so he contacted air traffic control and basically tattletaled on them. Again, I'm not really sure the validity of all this. It's just what we've heard. Upon hearing that the arrest was imminent, The story goes that Juice panicked and took all the perks and various other unknown pills that he had on him and suffered a fatal overdose shortly after landing. Medics and officers attempted to Narcan him, giving him 2 shots of naloxone, but it was unsuccessful, and he passed away that night, leaving an immense legacy and millions of grieving fans behind him. Juice was a really kind soul who was tormented by some demons, and after struggling through a battle with a fairly public addiction, the demons eventually won, as is so often the case, unfortunately. His family and estate continue to release songs and albums on his behalf to this day. They say that there are hundreds of songs on his phone and computers, and no one really knows how long to be able to keep releasing music post-mortem. I'm not going to get into the ethics of that because I don't really feel it's my place to say. I know that personally, I make music, and if I were to die, I'd be happy for my family to be releasing my music and keeping my legacy alive and release whatever I prepared. But I didn't know Juice, so it's not really my place to say what he would have wanted. But it's undeniable that Juice made an immense impact on music during the short time he was at the top. The fact that he had hundreds of songs to release shows that he had a massive work ethic, and not many artists have hundreds of songs ready to go like that. In fact, I really can't think of another artist who had so many songs nearly finished when they passed. So it's blatantly obvious that he had a serious passion for music and the arts, which is a fucking admirable trait in today's time of TikTok musicians and YouTube artists, when everyone has a rap album out and people like Logan and Jake Paul have a platinum record. Very few people actually have a passion for the art like Juice did, and I have nothing but love and respect for him for that. Now, moving on to why he had such an impact, in my opinion, in such a short time, and this is a kind of a complex question because there's a lot of factors to consider. The first most obvious one is that his music was just good, dude. Like, it was easy to listen to. It was relatable. It makes you feel something. I think feeling is the most important part of any music. It's what connects billions of people across the world despite language barriers, despite different lives being led. The beauty of music is that it speaks to emotions and feelings that every human has felt at a one time or another, and it breaks down language barriers. It speaks to the soul instead of the ego, and Juice was a master of that. He could get his point across using very few words, and that, my friends, is not an easy feat. Being able to convey a point, let alone make people feel an emotion without using 100 words, is what sets a good artist aside from an exceptional artist. And Juice was an exceptional artist. I have no doubts that his legacy will continue for decades to come, just like Kurt Cobain, just like Jim Morrison, Hank Williams, and you know, the plethora of others before him. Because art transcends time and trends. He may have begun the emo rap trend. He may not have. Who fucking knows? I'm not here to fucking decide that. But all the people who jumped on board after him, trying to copy him and do what he did just because they wanted to be rich and famous, will fade away long after he is still at the top of people's conscious and minds and perspective, whatever you want to call it. He also had a unique perspective, just like anyone. Everybody has a unique perspective, right? We all have a unique perspective to us because we're all unique. You know, like snowflakes. But his ability to convey that perspective in a way that others could relate to on a mass scale is what made him truly exceptional. Because not everybody can do that. You know, anybody can write a song. Anybody can write a hit song, too. It's not that hard. There's a million fucking hit songs. Probably close to a million. I'm not even exaggerating. Over the last, 100 years? Probably close to a million number one hit songs. And how many do people still remember today? Very few. All right? There's very few that last the test of time, because trends change, and when trends change, people move on to the next thing, and whatever sounds old and dated stays back in the past. But with people, there are certain artists that just transcend trends. They transcend time. They transcend everything, and it's relatable no matter if you were born in 1920 or 2020. It's still relatable because it's stuff that people throughout all of history, throughout all of human experience, have felt. And that is the sign of a good artist. Is not being relatable for the time. It's not being fucking the voice of a generation. It's being the voice of every generation. Being somebody who can speak to your 90-year-old grandma, but also speak to 8-year-old Johnny playing with his Legos. You know what I mean? And that is why Juice was an exceptional artist, not just a good artist. And with that, I'm Whitey Wish from Young Death, signing off.